Want to see how you
the worst one ever.
I missed. It was.
That was so bad. I loved it.
It's really good.
The first one was amazing.
So it was really good.
Yeah.
It was so bad it was good.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, welcome to House Parties. We're excited you guys are here with us. We're going to be wrapping up our How to Be a Bad Friend series tonight, which should be good.
Yeah.
Newsflash, no sarcasm tonight.
That's right.
That's right.
So don't mistake our
Good
wise
advice
advice for we're being satirical.
We realize that for a lot of you, the sarcasm went over your heads.
And your parents.
And your parents' heads.
That's okay.
It is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally fine. We felt good about it.
Yeah.
And that's all that really matters.
That's right.
Yeah. Hey, couple announcements for you guys just to be aware of. Next week, there are no house parties. Oh, no. Why are there no house parties?
It's canceled. It's
Why
not
are
canceled.
I know. Why are there no house parties?
Because it's student night.
Yeah, so we want to invite you guys. Bring your friends. Meet us down at Zoe's Cafe over in the Bel Air, 6:30 to 8:30. We're going to have dinner.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have activities. I know. And Stetson's planning the games this week, so I don't know what they're going to be. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
I don't either.
Yeah.
I just learned in this moment.
No, that's actually not true. You learned the other day.
I forgot the other day, and I relearned
so that you can
in this
do that.
moment.
Yeah. Yeah, Stetson's always learning.
It's true.
But we got that, and then also just
set
a reminder
right now to play in the
set
games.
a reminder. Some of your house parties, you guys haven't yet gone out to do fun events. Those will be happening in this next month. House party leaders, if you want to reach out to us, we'll tell you guys what your budget is. You can plan it, and we'll help promote it and do that whole thing. But
yeah, have fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. I know you guys went bowling. Another group went bowling. Our group, all the girls, did a movie night this last week.
Nice.
I know.
What'd the guys do?
Nothing.
They didn't show?
It was a girls' movie night.
Oh.
Yeah, they watched some chick flick.
Cool.
The Proposal.
Ugh.
Yeah. It's really rude to be on your phone in front of other people when you're having a conversation.
I don't care.
All right, hey, we got some slices.
Slices.
What do you got?
So there was a hiker in Colorado, and he went hiking, as hikers do.
There was a hiker,
and he stayed home.
He went canoeing.
That is my slice. And he left, and he said he was going to be back at a certain time, and he wasn't, and so that started the search and rescue process. And one of the first steps is they call the person to see if they can reach them and see if they're safe. And they called, and they didn't get any responses, and they engaged. They organized these search and rescue teams, and they started looking for him. And 24 hours after he had left, he came back, having no idea that search and rescue was after him. He received the calls from them, but he ignored them because he thought it was spam.
So did this guy feel like his life was in danger at all?
No, he seemed like he must have felt pretty competent. Like if he had a cell signal to receive a call, he could have called for help if he wanted to.
Wow.
So I think he was just like, he felt pretty confident in his survival abilities.
Didn't he get like lost and he couldn't find the trail?
Right,
And he just kept finding new trails until he could find the right one.
Yeah. And then he eventually made it back to his car.
I wonder how many tax dollars were spent trying to find that guy.
Yeah.
And if he's gonna get billed. Because like, what happens if you get billed for that and they're like, hey, we sent out parties. You're like, but I was fine.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Wow. That opens up a whole level of the situation.
Because then on the other hand, you're like, but I paid my taxes, which should already be paying for this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Can I really be fined for something I already paid for?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways. Cool. So don't go hiking. That's the moral of the story.
That's right.
Sit
just
at
play
home,
it safe.
Watch your Netflix and your Disney Plus and your Prime, and just hang out on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok all day.
Outside is dangerous.
It is.
It might rain today.
There could be a bear that chases you.
In the rain.
Or a moose.
In the rain.
All right. So speaking of animals,
in the rain.
My slice. you probably know there's a lot of companies right now that are building robots.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I've kind of got this fear of artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Like if we design robots and computers that could actually begin to think and analyze things, like I've got this fear of like, have you seen Terminator and all those movies where the robots are like, our job is to protect humanity.
Yes.
And yet humanity is destroying themselves. Therefore, we must destroy humanity.
That's
right? Like that's my fear. Like that's going to happen.
Right.
So there's a company who lately has been making AI robot dogs.
Oh.
And they recently decided to upgrade them.
Okay.
And these dogs, I'll show you a picture of what these things look like. What do you think they put on these dogs?
Well, when you first said it, I just imagined like a fur suit.
No. It's very obviously a robot. It just has like the shape of a dog.
Okay. I don't know. What? Ears?
Big old machine guns.
Oh, nice. So these aren't like for the home.
These are
this
AI
is like military
dogs that are being built for the military that have these massive machine guns on them. And the whole goal is like we're going to send them into war, make soldiers safer and all that. But I've got that fear. Artificial intelligence. Guns. The ability to move way quicker than any of us could and to not be hurt by any kind of small arms fire themselves. I don't know. It just seems like
that's not like remote controlled. That's like they just like press.
They could program it and be like, "Hey,
go.
There's the thing. Go eliminate the targets."
Oh, that's a bad idea.
Isn't that a bad idea?
It's a really bad idea.
Like, who's coming up with this stuff? That's what I want to know. It's like, have you not seen the movies?
Yeah.
Right. Like, we were warned about this. Like, they're still making Terminator movies even today.
Yeah. I don't even let my real dog off the leash. Like,
let alone a metal, 1,500-pound dog with a machine gun on its back.
Isn't that you spend years feeding and taking care of your dog and loving it and petting it, and the moment you unhook the leash, it's like, peace!
It's just like your children.
Yeah. There are these siblings in my house party, and their dog mysteriously gets injured on a consistent basis in these accidents involving the involvement of these siblings and their little brother. I have this conspiracy theory.
Lay it out.
Like that they are like intentionally injuring this dog. Every week, one of their prayer requests is another injury that their dog has had. And I think they ask for that to ease their guilty conscience.
Do you guys give them a hard time in your house party for this?
I'm giving them a hard time about this right now.
What's the number for animal control or PETA?
I don't know.
People for the ethical treatment of animals.
I don't know what that number
is. You do know harming animals is a felony.
It is.
We both did that at the same time. No, we know.
I'm just kidding. I know they don't. They're the coolest people. They would never do that.
Cool, man. Well, good slices. I'm a little bit afraid of the one I brought, but I think I'll still sleep well tonight.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we're going to wrap up our conversation now on how to be a bad friend, which is really actually how to be a good friend.
Right.
And just really, our heart is, we just want to offer some closing thoughts for you guys. Like, I know the first 3 weeks, a lot of satire, a lot of sarcasm, because we wanted to help you guys see, like, man, friendships are important. The people you're around, they're important. The people you invite into your life, like, it's all significant. And the way you interact and engage with them, like, it's something that either is going to bring life to them and help them grow, or it's going to be something that actually holds them back and tears them down.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's a couple thoughts that have been going through my mind the whole time. Like, I think they won't care who this was. You probably know who it was who said it. But it's this line of, like, what you can't do for everybody, do for one person.
Andy Samley.
Okay, great. You don't care. So, but it's this idea of, like, okay, like, we see the needs of all these people, but what if we just focused on one person and cared for them like we would hope everyone would be cared for? That's still an incredibly significant thing. And the other thing that's been going through my mind is just, like, throughout this whole time is the reason why we're talking to you about this, and I kind of touched on this last week, is because we believe in you so strongly in your ability to impact the people around you. Like, we think you are incredible, and the potential that you have to just, like, make a difference in the lives of the people around you and the ways that you love them and care for them and be, like, this light in some pretty dark places. Like, we get inspired by the idea of what could happen if you guys saw the potential in yourselves to be the type of friends that Jesus would be if he went to your school, if he lived in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could think of so many examples of some of you guys who were sitting in your house parties right now of, like, how I've seen you guys be these kinds of friends and the kind of life it's actually brought to somebody else. Like, one way is, like, by helping them get connected to a community that is life-giving, where there are people who love them and care about them and, actually want good things for them, right? Like, I've seen so many of you do this. Like, there's probably some of you guys even here right now for the first time who are here because somebody else in the life group, or house party, what I call it life group, the house party invited you into that.
Right.
Now, a lot of what we've talked about so far, which I've loved all of it, right? If you've missed any, please go back on the YouTube and watch them. But like, so much of that has focused on just the way that we treat and engage people, right? It's a lot of these like tangible things, like, hey man, like you need to be somebody who builds people up. You need to be somebody who steps into people's worlds. You need to be somebody who shows up emotionally and physically for other people. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least take the opportunity to talk about like another way that we can be a good friend.
Yeah.
Is and by the way, like I don't want this to sound like too churchy, even though it's probably going to sound a little bit churchy, you know what I mean? But like having conversations about faith with them.
Yep.
Now, me and Stetson, like we grew up in a time where a lot of those conversations probably just weren't really healthy. Like we were told to do things that would try to like scare people and do all this kind of stuff, and it was all about eternity and like, oh, people are going to hell. It's like when you read the Bible, like that's not actually what's there. Like Jesus is much more concerned with us helping people experience life right now. And I think to be a good friend, like you've got to be that person who shows up as Jesus right now and helps people experience Jesus and honestly, hopefully even meet Jesus themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not enough to just do a bunch of nice things for people. I mean, that's a really great thing and we want to do that, but like at some point, like we're not just these physical creatures, like we're there's something deeper in us, and we know, like we've got souls, we've got these spirits, and we have this ability to help people, specifically like our friends who maybe don't know Jesus, actually begin to wrestle with some deeper questions of like meaning and significance. And I don't know.
Yeah. And the purpose of that isn't to prove ourselves right.
Nope.
Or get people to join our team.
Not at all.
I mean, if Jesus is a part of your life, you know, like if you take a moment and think about the difference that has made, like you know how big of a game changer that is. And caring for our friends and knowing the difference that Jesus has made in our life and wanting that for other people. Because life is no joke. Like we are of no assumption that you guys are still on this blissful ignorant stage of like you're not aware of all the hardships of the world.
It's not like the Lego movie where everything is
right
awesome.
That's right. No, like for some of you everything is terrible. Like it's just like everything is falling apart, like things at school, parents not being the parents that they should be, like people not treating you like you deserve, and like all these things, just like health stuff, like family members dying, like life is hard, and without Jesus, it doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. And it's just empty and hopeless and dark. And I know that I would have like OD'd in a ditch a long time ago if I had no idea who Jesus was, if he wasn't with me.
Well, there's a story in one of the Gospels like where Jesus meets this woman who basically had been living this pretty broken, sinful life, right? Like she had been married multiple times, always ended divorce. She was shacked up with a dude she wasn't married to. And in that culture, like it was this really bad thing. Right. And Jesus basically called her out on this. And it was in a super loving way. And it was like this, hey, like there's a better story for you. There's this better plan. And I love what this woman did. Like she actually went and ran around her whole town. And she's like, y'all, you got to come meet this Jesus. You're laughing because
she
I said
y'all.
Y'all.
It like that?
Y'all. No, but like, guys, you've got to come meet this Jesus. Like he set me free. He told me every bad thing I've ever done, but like he gave me this better story. And like that's what you guys have the opportunity to do with your friends, right? None of it is about judgment or shame or anything. It's about the good news, right? That's what the gospel is. It's good news. It's like Jesus loves you. He's crazy about you. He wants you to be a part of his family, and like he is willing to meet you in the midst of all of that chaos that you just talked about that we experience in life, and to bring you peace. And I feel like when we've experienced that ourselves, like we almost have to share that with people. Sure. And it's not out of a convincing thing. It's like, no, like this is so good, and because I love you, I want you to experience this thing that is so good too. Yeah. I think that's a great way to be a really good friend. But it's always got to come from your own experience. Yeah. Right? Like that's the biggest thing, because I think about that story, right? What made it so cool is the woman didn't run around quoting Bible verses. Right. She's not like, Leviticus or whatever Bible verse they would have
I'm looking it up
quoted
right now.
back then. But instead, she used her own story of life transformation and said, like, y'all knew who I was. Look at who I am. He's the reason this is different. And it's just hopeful. You're really looking it up, aren't you?
I am.
And so I'd even encourage you guys, like... Is it bad?
It's so bad.
I just threw it.
It's so bad.
11:18.
No, you said
Oh, did I?
Leviticus.
Do I want to change it to
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, okay, but here's the tricky thing. I'm gonna get interrupted once, Nathan. What a verse to just throw out there. Oh my gosh.
In her story, it could have made sense, though.
Dude, I think you need to like legitimately bleep the reference so that they don't look this up and we get emails from parents. That would be so. Please bleep it so that they're just mystified at what we're talking about. Okay, so anyway, I think it's tricky to know in the moment. It's like, okay, do I just like, do I just love this person like Jesus would, or do I actually like lay out exactly what I believe and who Jesus is? And I've found in those moments, like, if I feel like it's like this is where the Holy Spirit really comes into play.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like developing this like listening ear of just like, okay, God, like whatever you want me to say, I'm willing to say it. I just don't know what they're ready for in this moment. So please, like if they're ready to like hear the explicit truth about who Jesus is and what he did, like I'm down. But just being aware, it's like a lot of people aren't ready to hear that yet. They've got so much baggage connected with it. So
well, and that's where I think like our life stories are so important.
Right.
Because if we start with us, and these are people who know us, who love us, they can go like, there is something markedly different about who you are. Can you tell me why? Right? And it almost like creates this invitation. Yeah. Like I don't think we should ever be pushy with our faith at all, like going and knocking on doors and doing that kind of stuff. But I also don't think we should be ashamed. Right? You know, and Paul even talks about this, like, I'm not ashamed of the gospel. Like, it's the power to change lives, right? And so we've just really kind of got to wrestle with that because, like, in our world today, and especially in a lot of our relationships, the way most of us kind of live is, like, I've got my life and then I've got my faith. Now, my faith might impact a little bit of how I do my life, but, like, by and large, these two things are pretty separate for a lot of people. But in reality, like, we know that's not true, right? Like, that's not a healthy way to live. Like, you're just kind of compartmentalized. And, like, what does it look like to bring that into your friendships? Obviously, it's motivating, but, like, at some point, it's just good to have the conversations. And I think it's a really loving thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I really believe it. And with that, too, like, guys, like, there are times where you're going to see your friends doing things that are incredibly destructive. That are just really damaging to them and to the people who are around them. In those situations, one of the loving things you do is you do speak a hard truth to them. Yeah. Right? Because that actually is the loving thing to do. Like, I think about, like, my kids. Like, if my kid, like, breaks away from me in the parking lot and we're walking and I see there's a car driving by and obviously the driver's on their cell phone, they're not paying attention. Right? The loving thing for me in that situation is not just to be like, well, I'm going to let my kid do whatever she wants. It's like, no, I'm going to run out there and I'm going to grab her. Or I'm going to yell and be like, stop! You're about to get ran over by a car. Yeah, for sure. And there are times we have to do that with our friends. And so what Stetson said there is so important. Like, understand the Holy Spirit. And maybe we'll talk about this more in coming weeks. But, like, he's always with you. And if you've ever got questions like, how do I engage this? Like, how do I interact? Like, how do I live out my faith? Just ask him. Like, he'll show you the right answer. Like, there have been times in my life where I've walked into a conversation thinking, I need to do this. And then the Spirit's like, no, you actually need to do that. Yep. And when I do that, like, that's what actually leads to the breakthrough I'd been praying for. Yeah. But if you hear anything, guys, like, when it comes to sharing Jesus with our friends, both in the way we live and just telling stories, like, in no way, shape, or form should that ever be judgmental. Right. Like, we should never be quoting Bible verses at people, especially not the one we referenced earlier.
Like condemning ones of just
like we instead, like, let's just speak the promises. like John 3:16, God so loved the world. Like, oh yeah, like that's good. Like that means God loved you, right? Don't go to all the ones about sin and just be like, you're a sinner, you're going to hell or whatever. Like that's just not helpful, and that's not the way of Jesus, because he never did that.
Right.
Like he always spoke with love and with grace and with truth.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that I had just been thinking about in terms of like, what does it mean to be a good friend? And that's just kind of trying to bring it full circle, realizing like we're whole people.
Yeah.
Like we're not just physical, we're spiritual, and
Yeah, for sure. And when we were thinking about like different things that we could talk about, like you brought up one thing of just like when we live outwardly from this place of peace and hope and joy, that's a really big deal. And it might be something to think about. It's like, is your experience of life any different from people around you who have no idea who Jesus is? And if there is no difference there, that's something really good to look at and like think, like, why is there no difference there? Because maybe there's some aspects of the reality of Jesus that you're aware of that you're not stepping into that could bring like so much freedom and hope and joy and peace and safety and fullness and all these things. But if the world is just like dragging you down and you feel without hope, like, man, those are things that your leaders want to know about and have conversations about with you, because we would hate if you're in that position. And like when Jesus is a part of our life, it should change our experience of life. And I don't say that in a way of like, you're doing it wrong, something's wrong with you. But it's like, no, it's like, but what are we missing out on if there's just like this weight and this cloud and this hopelessness?
Yeah. I think that's going to probably give them a good amount to talk about.
Yeah.
So leaders, Stetson has sent you guys some questions to be able to just kind of talk about and process as a group. And obviously, since this is the last part of the series, like, if there's other directions you guys want to go, like, go there, right? Like, these questions are not, you've got to get through all of them.
Right.
They're really just springboards.
Yep.
We want you just to talk about, like, what does it look like to be a good friend, to be Jesus' people? And, man, this hope that Jesus talks about in this piece, like, am I actually even experiencing that in such a way that it becomes evident to all of the people who are around me? So, all right, guys, we'll see you next week down at Zoe's.